Please settle in for a minute or two here. I want to talk about something that's kind of a simple concept to grasp. It's good to have it understood before something bad happens, that you understand the three things I'm about to explain to you. But I don't want to be casual about the language I use because it's very important. Now, the original way I heard this was that there are three things necessary for a hero. Or, in other words, when someone acts heroically, there are these three elements in place. Those are the three things I want to tell you about now. I'm a little reluctant to use the word hero. I don't think there's another word that's quite there. Leader is one that you might consider or think about. I champion, we're just not used to hearing that type of thing, but in a circumstance when bad things happen, somebody steps forward and kind of champions the solution. When I was in the military, we were trained to arrive on the scene, and if you're the one running it, you announce, I'm in charge at the scene. But even what I'm talking about here is not even so much about being in charge or kind of that leadership role, but where you're actually taking care of business. So hero is probably the right word. I'm going to say in circumstances where someone acts heroic. So it's their behavior and not necessarily a definition of them. And it is this classical behavior that sometimes is referred to as, heroic. So let's talk about that. When something bad happens, and the reason it even comes up is because, I've written the book, How to Make a Citizen's Arrest. And, it's great stuff, good information to know, some very tactical, on the ground, important things to know. And, I've been there, done that. So when bad things happen, and we're not just talking about criminal, bad guys, citizen's arrest, but in the event of if there's a fire, if there's a medical emergency, any of these types of situations where you think you might want to or have to step up and do the heroic thing. That's what I'm talking about here. And three things are required, and one of which you really have almost no control over. So I want to cover that one last, but let's lead in with the three things. Number one, you need what I would call the skills or the abilities. You need the ability to take care of the situation. Again, for something like a medical emergency, what kind have you had the training? Have you learned about these things? Do you know how to do CPR? Can you apply a tourniquet? Do you know how to check someone's breathing, to check for a pulse? Having those skills or abilities are one of the three critical things if you need to step up and take heroic action. Number two is you need a willingness to do so. If you're just not willing to step up and use the skills that you have, that's understandable. There's no judgment. I get that. Things in the real world are scary, and when something does happen, your mind goes to the million possibilities of what's going on. One of the things that drives me up the wall about crime scene type shows on television is they'll get one little piece of information and they'll immediately draw the correct conclusion. If two weapons are involved and they find a body with two different kinds of wounds, they'll say, well, that means there's two different suspects, and sure enough, they're correct. Well, no, that's not necessarily what it means. So there's all these types of things where they go immediately to the correct conclusion. But if you stop and think for a moment, and then especially in a desperate situation, all the possible things that could go wrong. So imagine a crime in progress, and you see the bad guy, and you've got the skills and abilities to apprehend him or run him off, or maybe, and sometimes it's just get a good witness statement in that. But you have these skills or abilities, but you all of a sudden realize, what if he's not alone? What if there's a getaway driver? What if there's someone waiting around the corner? What if someone else in the store here is his backup and just not making himself known? Your mind will go crazy, and you may not be willing to take the risk or the chance to do what some people in hindsight, if it turns out well, will call heroic. Let me also just say, 99% of the time, the best thing to do in something like that, is nothing. If the person is just wants the money, wants the stuff, wants to run, Is there really a lot of reason to interfere with that? I would say no. The last thing that I want you to consider of these three things is skills, the willingness, and this last one is the one you have very little control over. A little bit, I'll explain to you. But the third thing is, do you have the opportunity to step up and do the heroic thing? Now, in the big picture wise, we live 99.999% of the time, there is no opportunity because there's no situation. You can spend a lifetime learning how to apply a tourniquet. You can spend a lifetime, I know gun enthusiasts that just love to go to the range and shoot for accuracy. And you can live 10 lifetimes and never need to draw a weapon in real life. Martial artist, as wonderful as that is, and I think that's great for fitness and preparedness and confidence and everything else. And I think you should have some martial arts skills, but you can practice your skills a lifetime and never in the real world need to step up and use them because there's not that opportunity. Now imagine you're in a situation where you have the skills and the willingness, and in a sense there is opportunity right here in this area, in this room, in this store, in your church. Something is happening, but you don't have the opportunity to do something about it. The person that you need to get to is too far away. Whatever you need to do, you don't have that opportunity because you're blocked in. In the event of a fire, you may have the skills to go in, the strength and the ability to pull somebody out, but no opportunity. When it comes to heat and flame and smokes, I just don't think, if you haven't been there, that you can fully appreciate how bad that is, and there's just truly no opportunity. Yes, you're right there in front of the fire, but you just can't get to the person. That type of thing. So opportunity is the third thing. You need skills, you need the willingness, and you need the opportunity. Opportunity you don't have a lot of control over. What you can do to have some sense or control over opportunity is to make sure that when you're seated in a restaurant, for example, if you want to be by the exits, if you want to sit in church near a fire extinguisher, that type of thing, you're increasing your ability to have the opportunity to help because you have easy, quick access, for example, to that fire extinguisher if something goes wrong. The really, really good news about this is that we can live thousands and thousands of days and never have to step up to something that's like this, that requires this heroic type virtue. If you want to back out for a little more spiritual perspective on things, I think you look at the single mom who goes to work every day for years and years and years to support her kids. That is heroic. She's got the skills and she's got the opportunity to help them, and she's got the willingness. The willingness there being a tremendously heroic thing in my view. There are a lot of things that we can do in our life every day that have heroic consequences, but they're not glamorous. Nobody refers to you as a hero. Do you think anybody on a regular basis, when they think describe a hero to me, is imagining that single parent trying to support their children, who riding the bus for 2 hours to get to work because the car broke down and they can't afford to get it repaired? That is heroic, no matter how you slice it, but it's not the one that comes to mind most of the time. Maybe it's not the one that you're listening to this or watching this video for that reason. But keep in mind, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you're willing to do the right thing every day in the small things, the painful things, the very unglamorous things, then that does increase your odds of having the willingness when the time comes that something one considers more classically heroic comes up. So, watch the videos, read the books, get any training you think you need. I'm not pushing training, but if you need training, no matter what it is, get the training so that you have the skills. The willingness is going to come to you because every day you do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing. And the opportunity is something that hopefully, honestly, you won't even find a need to use those skills or those willingness. But if you do, you've pre-positioned yourself for greater chance at having the opportunity to do the heroic thing that needs to be done. I have a terrible habit of forgetting to tell you about this. I'm remembering now because it falls into that skills ability, but I do have a free report titled "If You Want to Be a Private Investigator, Give Up Unless You Do These Three Things." That report actually teaches a few skills in the private investigator world that might help you, that will help you. And so I'm just remembering as we talk about skills that I have that free report available for you over at shadowanyone.com. In the meantime, remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.